They enjoy camping, hiking, hunting, and spending time with their grandchildren. And y'all, it's a pleasure for them to have them here with us this morning. Come on, Ken.
Good morning. So happy to be with y'all today. This is awesome. Tressa has been telling me some about the church here and how much they have enjoyed being part of your fellowship, and we appreciate you being so welcoming and warm to them, and grateful that they've found a place here. She was telling me about how your building reminded her of the little church where I used to preach in Arkansas. We lived in Des Arc, Arkansas. I don't know if any of you know where that is. It's in the middle of the rice fields in the Delta there. We lived there from 1990 to 1996, I think, and Crystal and I went to Harding while we were there. We already had 3 kids. We were what they lovingly referred to as non-traditional students, which means you should have been here 15 years ago, but we're glad you're here anyway. So we had this same build. Of course, it was the old, red brick, white trim and all that, but had this same design. So she was telling me about that. As was mentioned, we attend the Cross Point Church in Florence. Pretty good sized church. We're about 1,000 members, but I have spent the first 11 years that I was in ministry, ministering to churches smaller than this. This would have been a big crowd at the churches that I worked at in the early days of my ministry. So there's a place for all of those in the kingdom. There's advantages and disadvantages to both, big and small. Big churches can do some things, small churches can't, but small churches have some things that big churches have to work really hard at, which is having small group fellowship and knowing everybody and all of that. So anyway, there's a place for all of us in God's kingdom. We're such blessed people, aren't we? I mean, we just have so much to be grateful for. Want us to think this morning. By the way, at our church at home this morning at Cross Point is our Mission Sunday. So say a prayer for that. That's something that we do every year, call special attention to our missions. We actually do that leading up to this week. For several weeks beforehand, we'll highlight various missionaries that we support or are involved with. But we take special collection on Mission Sunday, so everything above our regular budget amount goes directly to missions. And that doesn't mean that missions is not already in the budget, but this kind of allows us to do some special things, send some bonuses to our missionaries that we're already supporting, several local mission outreaches that we do throughout the year that it helps with. So say a prayer for our Mission Sunday that's going on at home this morning. I'm going to talk to you this morning a little bit just about the idea of our new life in Christ. As I said, we're just such blessed people, and we're blessed because Christ has taken our old self, our old man or woman of sin, and he has exchanged that for something new and wonderful that we just cannot say enough great things about. But let's think about this in terms this morning of what it means to really live. Okay, how do we define life? Well, we define it biologically, like the difference between living things and non-living things. A bird is alive, a rock isn't. Whoops, there goes all my scriptures on the floor. I think we don't need that one. Sorry about that. I don't preach a whole lot anymore. I'm actually more of a teacher, I think, so maybe not as polished as some guys. So we talk about life in terms of biology. We talk about it practically. In other words, the span of time between our birth and our death. You've probably heard the little thing about the dash. The dash is that thing between the day we were born and the day we died. The dash is our life. It's what consists of the time that we spend on this earth. Or then we think about life in terms of, I guess you'd say personally. Like, what is your life about? Well, I do this for a living, and I have grandkids, and I'm involved in this, and I help out in my community, and I go to church, and so we just talk about the content, I guess you'd say, of our lives, how we spend our time. And then spiritually, and let's look at our first text, which is in Ephesians chapter 2. Spiritually, let's define what it means to live. Paul said in Ephesians chapter 2, beginning with the first verse, you were dead. Well, that's a great way to start a message to folks, right? You're dead. You're dead through the trespasses and sins in which you once lived, following the course of this world, following the ruler of the power of the air, the spirit that is now at work among those who are disobedient. All of us once lived among them in the passions of our flesh. Notice how many times he uses some form of the word dead or alive in these verses. All of us once lived among them in the passions of our flesh, following the desires of the flesh and the senses, and we were by nature children of wrath. What does it mean to be a child of wrath? It means we were subject to the wrath of God, deserving of the wrath of God, and destined to suffer the wrath of God. But God, who is rich in mercy, out of the great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead, there we are again, dead through our trespasses, made us alive together with Christ. For by grace you have been saved. That verse 4 where it says, but God. Isn't that just such a huge 2 words? It was like this, but God stepped in. God did something about our deadness, about our dead situation. So he said, we were living according to the flesh. You were doing what you wanted to do. By the way, isn't that how most people define life? Well, I want my life to be about what? I want it to be about what I want to do. I want to choose my career path. I want to choose my mate. I want to choose where I live. I want to choose where I go to church. I want to, it's all about us. And so we think that's what life is. And yet, when we really look at it in light of Scripture, we're living for self. What does God say about us? You're actually dead, if that's is not technically an insect, okay? But anyway, we put the centipede in water and drowned him, okay? And it took a long time. Apparently a centipede can hold his breath for quite a while. It suggested in the experiment that our bug would, succumb to the water in 2 to 3 minutes. Well, it took about 15 for the centipede to finally go to the bottom and appear to be dead. The experiment was then that you take the bug out of the water and you put salt on him and he will come back to life. Well, I didn't know if this would work with a centipede or not, but for lack of a bug, we used the centipede, and guess what? It worked. He sank to the bottom. He appeared to be dead. We watched him. He didn't move for at least 10 minutes. We took him out. We put salt on him, and he came back to life. Well, of course, we know that he wasn't actually dead, and bugs and apparently centipedes as well have the ability to sort of shut down, close themselves off, and not actually drown, but survive in that environment for apparently quite some period of time. And if you put some salt on them, then what that does is, of course, speed up the drying